Linebackers today, Miami Dolphins fans, as we're on to our second week of off-season positional preview videos. Go back and watch the first five that we've done last week. I'll be knocking out the five positions that we have remaining this week, and we are starting that off today on the Fins Up Network. Linebacker. And linebacker is one of the most, I'll say, important positions to discuss this offseason because as you're going to see, we technically have two linebackers on our current roster heading into 2023. And that's not counting some of the guys that you see on some websites listed as linebacker. But in my honest opinion, they're more suited as edge players. So in regards to true linebackers, we've got two because of Landon Roberts, Duke Riley, Sam Eguavoen are all scheduled to hit free agency this offseason. So let's take a peek here real quick at the guys that we had in 2022. But before I do that, actually, almost let you off easy. If there's a NFL draft prospect or a free agent linebacker that you've got your eye on that you'd like to see the Dolphins pursue, drop them in the comments. Want to hear what you guys have got planned for this offseason as well. So now I'll be a man of my word, and I'll show what we were working with in 2022 because those two names that we see that are coming back, that's Jerome Baker and Channing Tindall. Now, both of those guys are interesting for their own reasons as well, because Jerome Baker, to be quite honest, that is possibly a name that you're going to hear floated around as a Dolphins trade rumor type of guy. And that's for a couple of different reasons. One, because Vic Fangio is going to put people in his defense that he feels are the best fit. Now, there's some people out there that think Baker's a fit. There's other people that you're going to run into that say, nope, Jerome Baker's not the greatest fit for a Vic Fangio-led defense. And the other thing is he's still young. I believe he's 26 years old right now. So if the Dolphins want to free up some cap space, and if they want to try to get some draft capital, because what do we got right now? 5 picks going into this draft. Jerome Baker is a name out there that could fetch some actual draft capital while freeing up the salary cap, like I said. But he's been good with the Dolphins. He's never been like the sexy play. I think his probably sexiest play was like that 30-yard sack that he had against Patrick Mahomes a couple of years ago. But he's been a consistent guy. He does a lot for this team. He's kind of like the quarterback of the defense with getting the call. So he does a lot more than a lot of fans want to give him credit for. The numbers aren't always super eye-popping, but he's been fairly consistent. He does miss tackles here and there. But it's an interesting guy to pay attention to because, like I said, if we lose him, we're losing a guy that has been here for the last few years and a guy that's been consistent for us. So keep your eye on him. But the other guy was Channing Tindall. And, man, if you're looking at Channing Tindall right now, such few snaps played in 2022. So not that he's necessarily playing in like a rookie year if he were to get more snaps here in 2023, but he doesn't have a ton of experience. Obviously, he'll have the offseason to build on. But hopefully you're looking at Vic Fangio and saying, you know what, Vic Fangio is a defensive mastermind. He knows what he wants in a linebacker. And if Channing Tindall can fit that role, whether it's playing a little bit in coverage or whether it's being a quarterback spy or coming in on those delayed blitzes, that's what Channing Tindall excels at. He's quick. He gets sideline to sideline fast. There's something there. Like I said, I hope that 2022 is just more of a redshirt year more than anything. But we're going to have to try to get something out of Channing Tindall, especially if we were to move Jerome Baker, because look at those free agent guys. Landon Roberts, yeah, another guy that wasn't a sexy name, but he is a run thumper, the big hitter on the team. And then you got Duke Riley, who, once again, I say it a lot with this position, not the sexy name, but he gets it done in the run game. He gets it done in pass coverage. So I expect a busy offseason when it comes to linebacker, and we're going to talk about the free agents, and we're going to talk about the NFL draft guys here as well. But what did we see last offseason? We saw Landon Roberts, Eguavoen, Duke Riley. We saw all these guys. Let me refresh this for 1 second here, and then we'll go back into that. We saw all those guys essentially brought back on one-year deals. Now, I wouldn't be completely surprised if we see something similar to that again to keep a little bit of consistency in the linebacker room. I have read a few things about Landon Roberts potentially being a fit, maybe as like a 2-down linebacker in Fangio's system. And with Riley, he does a little bit of both. Like he's not awesome in pass coverage and he's not awesome at filling run gaps, but he gets the job done when he's called upon. So those are the high effort kind of guys that a lot of defenses will like. There will be suitors there, so maybe they do a little bit of in-house shopping when it comes to free agency. But like I said, I expect a busy offseason potentially in the draft and in free agency. Now let's look at some of those free agent options because you're going to see, excuse me, a name on here that's atop of most people's list. And it's a name that we're familiar with as Dolphins fans because he spent his, first 4 or 5 years with the Buffalo Bills. And that's Tremaine Edmunds, former first round pick, still only 24, 25 years old. He really absolutely excelled in this contract year. He had his best, I would arguably say, year in 2022, but it's not like he was bad prior to that either. I think he had over 100 tackles the 4 seasons leading up to that. Good in pass coverage, fast linebacker, athletic guy that you can really kind of build your linebacker unit around. So that's a name that you're going to see floated out there. But at the end of the day, that's going to be a splash, big money signing. So if Miami is going to get it done in free agency this year, if they're going to allocate some dollars, if linebacker is the position, he's the number one guy that you're going to see. And obviously, I'm pretty sure that I sorted these linebackers based on number of snaps they played in the 2022 NFL season. So it's not every single free agent linebacker. It's just the ones that saw the most action. But like I said, looking at the guys we had from last year, are we kicking the can down the road again with a guy like Landon Roberts? Are we going to do that with Duke Riley? Sam Eguavoen's been the preseason MVP of at least one game for the last couple of years. Do you kick the can down the road with him one more time? Or do you completely overhaul the unit? And at the end of the day, that's what we brought in Vic Fangio for. That's one of the next dominoes to fall, is how does that coaching staff come together here now that Vic Fangio is going to be part of that conversation? So there's some good free agents out there. There's some opportunities out there for the Dolphins to spend a little bit at the position if they deem it's going to be important. But yeah, I think that unit is going to look significantly different. And in regards to free agents, Tremaine Edmunds is the number one guy that you're going to see. But there's some interesting tidbits here in regards to NFL draft linebackers, because I was recently informed that we should not be surprised if Miami were to double dip at linebacker in that second, third round area, depending on who falls. Because like you say, we got pick 51 overall in the second round. Then we got a couple that are close to each other in the third round. Now, if the right guys fall, here's an opportunity to potentially kind of have like a makeover to that unit, because you got Channing Tindall. And then if you were to double dip in the draft in those early rounds, you're looking at a very different unit. Now, it'd be interesting to see how that would play out. I think it's going to kind of play out based on who's available, but also about what they do in free agency, because keep in mind, you're going to hit your high priority free agents before you even enter the draft. But one name on this list that I know the team likes is Noah Sewell. I don't have insight as to who that second guy would be in regards to a potential double dip. But Noah Sewell is a guy out of Oregon, Penei Sewell's brother, if that name rings a bell. The first rounder that went to the Lions from the offensive line. That's a guy that the Dolphins are tied to, they're interested in, and there's a potential that he falls a little bit because he didn't have the 2022 campaign at Oregon like a lot of people thought he would. Like a lot of people thought where, man, he can solidify himself as a first rounder. Now, you can never say never. There's a chance he still pops up into the first round. We'll do more on that. But there's a good chance I'm going to definitely be doing a draft player profile on Sewell. And then kind of depending on if we catch wind of another prospect or two in that second, third round range, maybe a late round guy. If I catch a little bit of wind, I'll be doing a draft player profile on him as well. But Henry To'o out of Alabama, that was a guy I said to keep your eye on. With the Senior Bowl, that was a few weeks ago. Jack Campbell out of Iowa. These are those guys in that second, third round range that we probably should be keeping an eye on, especially based on how free agency goes. I'm going to take this off the page here real quick. But just to wrap up, like I said, based on the potential need, the insight about that potential double dip at linebacker in the draft, depending on who falls, I think we are going to see some major movement at the linebacker position this offseason with the Dolphins. Like I said, yeah, there's a chance you re-sign a guy like Duke Riley, you re-sign a guy like even Landon Roberts, but it's probably going to be in those limited roles. So whether that's a big name free agent like Tremaine Edmunds, whether it's a single linebacker like Sewell or a double dip linebacker with Sewell and another player, I think this is a position that we're going to be hearing and learning about this offseason. So like I said, I'm going to be doing draft player profiles on a lot of those guys kind of in that second, third round range, especially if we catch wind of another name that the Dolphins have their eye on. But who do you have your eye on? What NFL draft prospect at linebacker? Which free agent linebacker? Who do you want to see the Dolphins pursue this offseason? Go ahead, drop that in the comments. Let's continue the discussion on there. I'll be back with the next player position preview as well, or I should say just position preview for the offseason here. I don't remember which next one is on my list, but just know that it'll be available the next day. All right, Dolphins fans, until next time, Fins